Over the past few months, I've been rewatching a show called Supernatural. As a kid, I grew up absolutely loving the show. I stuck around for the first 5 seasons, and then around season 6 or maybe even season 7, I lost interest. I thought the quality and story direction took a steep dive, and I figured the show wouldn't be around for much longer anyways. Well, I was wrong. It went on for another 10 seasons after season 5, so while I remember the show quite fondly, I only ever watched less than 50% of the entire story. There's been a few times over the years that I had wanted to go back and watch the series, and I tried this out on a few occasions, but the task of watching a single show for 15 seasons, most of them having upwards of 20 episodes per season, was always too daunting, and I'd give up a few seasons in. But as a challenge and really an experiment, I've been watching the show, and while I'm nowhere near finished with it, I am at a point where I feel like I should start with these season reviews and retrospectives. So welcome to the first episode of this new series that I'm calling a Supernatural Retrospective. Pretty creative title, I know. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the entire first season of the show, recapping the story, breaking down the things that worked, the things that didn't work, and overall my thoughts on the start of the series. So grab a snack, and let's dive into the world of Supernatural. On a normal night in Lawrence, Kansas, 22 years ago, a family of 4 heads to bed, unaware that their lives are about to change forever. An intruder in baby Sam's bedroom sends Mary into a panic, and John running to the rescue, but he finds his wife pinned to the ceiling as she's engulfed by flames. The 3 remaining family members get out alive, and John Winchester looks determined to get to the bottom of everything. 22 years later, Dean comes to get Sam at college when their dad disappears. Sam thinks it's nothing, but Dean insists that it is, and when they find their dad's journal, something certainly seems wrong. Sam reluctantly gets swept into the world of hunting once again. Determined to maintain his normal life, Sam returns home but finds that his girlfriend has been killed the same way that his mother died all those years ago. Sam and Dean go on all these adventures, hunting things and saving people, looking for signs of their dad. Along these journeys, Sam begins having visions of future events that would come true and allow the brothers to stop these dark futures from coming true. Sam reveals that he had dreams of Jessica getting killed and he ignored them, and promises that he won't disregard his dreams or his visions ever again. The brothers eventually get sick of each other and go their separate ways. While they're separated, Sam meets Meg, another traveler who tries to convince him to leave his brother behind, but Sam has a change of heart and arrives just in time to save Dean from a town full of people trying to sacrifice him to a scarecrow god. Meg is revealed to be working for a demon, saying that the Winchesters are very important. Sam and Dean continue their adventures together when they eventually meet a boy with telekinetic powers. They learn that this boy also had a mother that was killed in the same manner that Mary Winchester was killed, and Sam is convinced that this must mean something. When the boy traps Sam in a closet, Sam uses his emotions and surprisingly moves the cupboard blocking the door. Though as hard as they try, the brothers can't get through to the boy and they lose him. They continue onward and stumble upon their father and the previously inauspicious Meg. John has been searching for the demon that killed their mom all those years ago, who has made his first appearance in years. Meg gets the upper hand on the 3 of them, John saying that he's weaker when he's around the 2 people that he cares about the most, his 2 sons. So they decide to depart ways for a while until they're brought together by the death of a fellow hunter, a hunter who was in possession of a very important artifact, the Colt, a gun with a few bullets that could kill any creature no matter what. The 3 of them fight off some vampires and gain possession of the Colt. They plan on working together to defeat the yellow-eyed demon once and for all, and Sam's visions of where the demon will appear next prove helpful until John's hunter friends start getting killed one by none other than Meg herself. She says that he needs to hand over the Colt or else more of his friends will die, so the 3 of them hatch a plan to give Meg a fake Colt while Sam and Dean stay behind to confront the yellow-eyed demon. Before he leaves, John scolds his boys for not telling him about Sam's visions beforehand, but he wasn't exactly the easiest man to contact, and even he admits that. Sam and Dean save a family from the same fate that their family went through and await a call from their father. John delivers the fake Colt to Meg and a new guy with similar telekinetic powers, though they quickly determine that it's a fake. Meg calls the boys and tells them that their father is captured, so they quickly come up with a plan to save him, though they realize they're gonna need some help. They go and see an old friend Bobby, who tells them of something called a devil's trap, which would allow them to trap any demon. So a really clever name. Meg arrives and demands that they hand over the colt, but they trick her into stepping foot in a devil's trap. They perform an exorcism to hopefully save the girl that the demon is possessing, to which they get the demon out so the real Meg can speak and tell them where John is, but they end up losing her. So Sam and Dean rescue their father and seek shelter in an old cabin somewhere along the road. John says that he's proud of his boys, and Dean is confused because his dad's never said that to him before. They discover that the yellow-eyed demon has possessed their father, so Sam shoots him in the leg. John says he still feels the demon inside of him and to shoot him again, but Sam can't and the demon escapes. All of them badly injured, they drive to the hospital, and on the way, a Mack truck slams into the Impala, leaving them all dead, unconscious, on the side of the road. So I'm actually surprised this recap took that long to write. When I started writing, I figured it would be like half a page long at most, but it ended up being a full page. And that surprised me because in terms of the story of the season, this really only covers like 5 or 6 episodes. That's right, in a season that's 22 episodes long, the story only really progresses in these 5 or 6 episodes. Now, is this a problem? No, because back in 2005, when the first season actually came out, that was just how TV shows were. If you think of all the shows that were popular at the time, all the CSIs and Law and Orders, that's just what the landscape of TV was at the time. Nowadays, I don't think I can name a serialized TV show that has over 20 episodes per season. But this show, and any show at the time, wasn't really intended for you to watch every single episode to understand what's going on. This was a show that, sure, you could watch every episode to understand the broader strokes of the story, but you could also watch any episode and more or less pick up on what's going on and what's happened before this. Again, this is not really how TV shows work now. You really have to sit down and watch episode 1 through however many episodes or seasons that there are. This isn't me saying that this is a poorly written show either, because it's not. Each episode has a clear 3-act structure that's altogether satisfying and thematically resonant. In this sense, this doesn't really feel like a show that was on the CW. This show can get very dark at times and sometimes very gruesome. This show leaned into horror far more than any other show that's come from the CW in the past decade. This show strikes the right balance between drama and cheesiness. If you've been a fan of Supernatural for a long time, you might not be able to spot the cheesiness. I had a hard time spotting it in the beginning because of the nostalgia factor, but it's certainly there. This cheesiness may also be a sign of the times and also the show really finding its footing and tone. And speaking of finding its footing and tone, some of the episodes in the first season are really strange to me. You introduce this concept of 2 brothers fighting off demons and ghosts and creatures of the night, and you lean into that with episodes like Bloody Mary, Wendigo, and Scarecrow, but then you also have episodes that feel like they almost ran out of ideas. Episodes like Bugs, where the haunting of the week was bugs, and the Benders, which is really just a psychotic family killing people and nothing even supernatural. And of course, there's the episode Route 666 about a haunted racist truck going around killing people. These episodes all seem like they would have come later in the show when they really were running out of ideas, and the first season would focus on popular ghosts and legends that more people are familiar with. This first season kind of strikes the balance of familiar hauntings and also new ideas for the show, and I get wanting to do something original to make the show stand out, but I don't think that all these ideas paid off in the end. Outside of the 5 or 6 episodes that progress the story, each episode is fairly predictable. We're introduced to a new case that Sam and Dean have to solve. They go to this new town and meet the suspects of the case. They usually receive help from a good-looking young woman and uncover the mystery to save the day, usually at the last minute. There's almost this Scooby-Doo aspect where you're introduced to a new cast of characters. They have to solve a mystery and figure out who's behind the haunting of the week, sometimes with a literal or metaphorical mask at the end. Sometimes these episodes end in a pretty underwhelming manner, like in the episode Hell House. They burn this haunted building to the ground that changes depending on what people believe is inside, and they just leave the town kind of hoping that nothing else will be said about the house or else it will still be haunted. The best episodes of the season are the episodes that break this mold, and they're usually the ones that progress the story in a meaningful way. Now, even in these less than spectacular episodes, the one thing that the show always gets right is its world building. A lot of the lore and rules of the world are built up throughout each episode, and once you learn something, whether that be how to kill a demon or a specific creature, you're expected to remember that going forward. There's a haunting in town, look for the body and burn the remains. Need a way to wound some entity? These bullets filled with rock salt should do the trick. Salt really is your best friend in this business, because you can even put it around your bed and boom, you're protected from all things like the sea bear circle. Is this really a haunting or just some really messed up case? Well, these traces of sulfur around the window seem to indicate that it's a haunting. I could go on and on too, because these rules of the universe get you right in the shoes of Sam and Dean to the point where you can even guess or give your own suggestions screaming at the TV as to how to get rid of whatever they're facing. And sometimes each case is different, like with the vampires in episode 20. If you stab them with dead man's blood, it completely incapacitates them, which is, at least I think, something original to the show when it comes to vampires. These elements continue to be introduced in subsequent seasons, and sometimes the ways in which to rid the demon or creature are one-off, but a lot of the times it's put in your arsenal of knowledge and will come back to play in future episodes. This really immerses you into the world and makes you feel like you're hunting something right there with Sam and Dean, which is a really great way to treat your audience and make them feel more involved in the story. These rules are strict, and at least so far they have never been broken, so each thing that they run into has to up the ante, or each story has to deliver some kind of twist or element to make each case specific and unique to the episode that you're watching. I even got this John Winchester journal replica, which has a lot of cool nods to the first season of the show, and it's not really super in-depth. Half of the book is empty for you to write in yourself, but it's a pretty cool read for any fan of the series. So there's all these elements of the show that work, but there's a reason why this show lasted for 15 seasons, and it's the sole reason that it lasted that long with fans, and if this single element were to be different, then the show might have never even aired, and that's Sam and Dean. In some alternate universe out there, Sam and Dean were played by somebody else than Jensen and Jared, and this show either didn't last for 15 seasons or it just didn't happen at all. While still finding their rhythm with each other, Sam and Dean are both so incredibly likable, and their dynamic with each other is the real heart of the show. Through their arguments, disagreements, and even heartwarming moments, each step of their journey feels earned and believable, and that's not something that any writer can just write on a page. That's what these actors brought to the table, because their friendship is genuine even to this day, and if it wasn't, you'd probably be able to tell on screen. Dean certainly gets more love when it comes to the fans and even the camera. A lot of the episodes focus on making Dean look cool, and this becomes apparent in later seasons, but Sam is actually the protagonist of the show. He's the one that goes on the hero's journey, he's the one that has special powers and an overarching mystery surrounding his fate and his place in the world, and more of that is to come, but Sam is the true protagonist of the show, and I feel like a lot of people are surprised by that. The other most important character of the season is, of course, John Winchester, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan absolutely kills it in every scene he's in. This is not I'm a fan of Negan, so I think he's good. No, he ups the ante in every single scene that he's in. For a show that was still kind of finding its footing and its tone, he makes the stakes feel that much more real with his performance, and I cannot give him enough praise for his time in the show. All of the cheesiness drains from the room when he's on screen, and he makes the show feel much more grounded and real. And speaking of John Winchester, the through line of this season thematically for both Sam and Dean is their daddy issues. For a lot of the time, this is the unspoken trauma that they both share, and in a few episodes it comes to a head. They might speak about it, or they might mention him and what he would do in this situation, and anytime he makes an appearance is also usually an important episode that progresses the story. Dean has always wanted to follow in Daddy's footsteps. He's constantly been on the seek for his approval, starting from a very young age, and really it's all that Dean's ever wanted. He understands and even likes the life that he lives. The only aspiration he's ever had was to have his father's approval on the way in which he goes about hunting. Sam, on the other hand, has aspirations of his own, to live a normal life, away from the family business, and because of this, a rift was formed between John and Sam. Through constant bickering and fights, Sam wrote his dad off, saying that he doesn't need him and he's fine on his own, but as the season goes on, you can see that this isn't necessarily true. He still wants his dad's approval, albeit in a different way than Dean does. He just wants his father to respect his own life choices and decisions. John, in many ways, is a truly broken man. After the death of his wife, John dedicated his entire life to hunting and getting the thing that killed his wife. Because of this admittedly selfish decision, he raised Sam and Dean as hunters, grooming them to carry the torch once he was no longer around, and because of this, he's a very distant father. There's a lot of talk about Sam being John's favorite, and while I wouldn't necessarily view it like that, I think that John sees the ghost of his bad parenting whenever he looks at Sam. He sees Sam wanting to live a normal life, and John sees that this is what he should have been pushing him and Dean towards, but it's too late for him to start making good parental decisions, so this makes things boil over between him and Sam almost constantly. So while Dean is constantly seeking approval from his father and doesn't get it, it's almost like John is seeking approval from Sam for the way that he went about parenting, but because Sam doesn't think highly of his father, at least at first, the three of them are stuck in this cycle of anger and resentment. That makes the finale of the season really wrap up the entire season of daddy issues in a highly satisfying manner. I have a lot of thoughts on the finale, but I'll save that for a separate video. While there were certainly some bumps in the road and the show was definitely in its early stages, figuring out what works and what didn't, the first season of Supernatural is great to look back on, especially to see those cracks in the system and how the show eventually fixes those for subsequent seasons. There's also the episodes that really get it right. For this season, that's the pilot, Scarecrow, Faith, and Devil's Trap. This season laid the groundwork for one of the most successful TV shows in the history of TV shows, and with Sam and Dean in the driver and passenger seats, it's very easy to see why this show lasted for such a long time. I have an episode analysis video on the pilot episode of the show already uploaded on the channel, so if you haven't already, you should check out that and be on the lookout for more episode analysis videos, as well as more Supernatural season retrospectives in the near future. What are your thoughts on the first season of Supernatural? Let me know in the comments below, as well as your favorite episode from the season. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Supernatural content. If you do, then I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.